Spoiler alert, I'm opening and swatching all of the colors in the 2023 Diamine Inkvent Calendar Purple Edition in this video. If you want to be surprised when the countdown starts on December 1st, now's the time to bail. Great, now that they're gone, I have a special giveaway opportunity for you all. Keep watching until the end of the video to see how you can win this entire 2023 Diamine Inkvent Calendar set along with the 25 pens that I use to swatch these inks. Let's check them out. So for this Diamine Inkvent Swatch Fest, what I've done is I've actually opened all of these little Diamine Inkvent doors and had unwrapped each of the little 12 milliliter ink bottles along with the 30 ml for day 25. And what I did was opened each ink and then filled these Platinum Preppy fountain pens, and eyedropper filled them. So eyedropper converting them, meaning that they're not using a converter to hold the ink, they're actually containing the ink entirely in the barrel of the pen. You say, hey Tom, well then that not lead to possible leaking issues perhaps? No, because what I did was I also added a little bit of security on each of these pens by putting a black rubber O-ring and silicone greasing the barrel threads on there. So this is a pretty good seal. It's not going to accidentally leak. So, and then all I did as well is label each one of these pens which has the particular color of ink in here. And what we'll do for this video is we'll swatch each ink on a coloring ink testing book card. It's this little fun little card here that is attached with a ring like this here. These are great. These are on the Goldspot website as well if you'd like to purchase these as a great accessory for swatching your inks. And I've already pre-swatched all of them and written with all of them here in an Endless Recorder notebook as well. So we have all of the inks already pretty much done, so I spoiled it for myself already for this video, but we're going to swatch each one of them here individually so we get a nice broad idea of what the color looks like by using a Q-tip, a cotton swab here, and swabbing the color on the card and then writing the name as well. So we get like a great idea, I think, of what to expect for each color and whether or not I think that this is going to be a set that you will enjoy as a fountain pen enthusiast. All right, there we go. All right, day number one is Fortune's Gold, which is a chameleon color, meaning that it has a good amount of shimmer that's in here. And the shimmer for chameleon shimmers is two-tone. So there's more than just one color of shimmer in there. It's usually a combination of a couple of different colors of shimmer, which look pretty cool. You'll notice it's a kind of a current theme with Diamine in particular, is that the shimmer has to be over the top. So it just can't be a standard gold or silver shimmer. Sometimes they throw in blues, greens, all sorts of different colors of shimmer. So we're gonna see what this color looks like. We'll dip the cotton swab in, get it nice and saturated, get all shimmeried up there, and rub it here on the coloring index card. And just dip a little bit more just to get some more color on there. And we have the pen, which is inked with the same color here. And the thing with shimmer is, if you're not already familiar with shimmer inks, is that the particles tend to settle at one side of the bottle and do the same thing, especially if I have this whole entire barrel inked up with the ink, and you can kind of make out the fact that if there's ink settling in one part of the pen or not. So I might gently shake this pen just to make sure that we have a somewhat even distribution of the shimmer, although the shimmer will have to make its way through the feeder. It's a nice shady gold ink. It has a good amount of range in gold. It's not too terribly bright, but I don't expect that of a gold. It's not like a yellow, so it does have some good depth, good shading, and of course has the shimmer to it as well. Day 2, we have Cashmere Rose, which is a standard ink. Meaning standard it's just basically a plain ink, doesn't have anything super fancy with it, not the sheening, the shimmery, not anything else, but a great ink nonetheless. So let's take a look at what this color is like. You don't have to shake this one. Get that Q-tip nice and saturated. I feel like this color is very true to its name, has a beautiful, pleasant rose color. Leans a little bit more, I think, on the magenta sort of side of a rose, not necessarily like a pink rose. And has like some good shading, I want to say, some pretty good, decent shading, and has a nice depth of color. Nothing exciting. Let's say it doesn't have the shimmer, it doesn't have a dramatic sense of shading, but very pleasant nonetheless. And I think a really nice complement to some of the more vibrant and over-the-top colors in this set. And at 3 we have Early Dusk, which is another standard ink. I like Early Dusk. It is a medium tone blue, but I feel it's got a little bit of some hints of, I'd say like a little bit of like a purple undertones, I want to say. It's a little bit of some violet undertones, and has some good shading. Winter is notably a time when dusk and nighttime come early, so I kind of feel the vibe that this particular ink is trying to put out, in that it's about that early going to nighttime, that you're kind of like getting settled in for the night, and that it's going to be cold and everything. So you have, I think that this one is pretty nice, and a good blue that's not a very ordinary looking blue. It just has like a different, little bit of a different dimension to it that just feels right in this set. And at 4 we have Masquerade, which is a shimmer ink. So for the shimmer, we're gonna shake this one up. I can see this shimmer is kind of settled to the one side of this pen. I have to just encourage it to move around the pen a little bit here, so we don't get, you know, we get a little bit of some shimmer whilst we write with it. Now, I don't think that this color is very conventional, but I like it a lot. I like it because it has a sort of pinkish brown color, which is, I think, in the middle of the two colors. So I always like it when colors inhabit a few different categories. And I think that this not only has a good amount of shading, but it also has that golden shimmer that is pretty obvious throughout. I think it's even more accentuated than the Fortune Gold, because the color itself is a little bit darker, so it could show off that shimmer a bit more. I don't really relate the holiday season with masquerades in particular, but I think it does relate to the parties and festivals that people have. And I think thematically it works, but I kind of feel like it's on the outside of the, I think that this could go with something else other than a winter themed set of inks, but that's up to your discretion, I guess. So at number 5, we have Nightfall. And Nightfall is a chameleon ink. It's also very, very saturated. So you really can't even see so much of the shimmer that's in here, but I think this is going to be maybe a blue and silver shimmer as well. I'll shake around the pen a little bit. Now this is a very richly saturated ink. Nightfall has got a little bit of some sheen as well, as I could see. A little bit some brownish bronze sheen going through that rich dark navy slash, I think, blurple, I might say. So it's got like a dark purplish bluish look. It is very saturated. It has a good flow as well, which is surprising being that it's very sheeny and it has shimmer as well. But it does flow very nicely and has a very icy sort of looking shimmer. So not only do you have that kind of that undertones of that brownish reddish sheen going on, that's kind of the base, but you have that blue and then the shimmer that's on top of it. So it's a very complex color, dark and mysterious. The name fits it very well. And at day 6, we have a color that's at the other end of the saturation spectrum called Bucks Fizz, which is a light color that has chameleon properties, of which it has the shimmer at the bottom of the bottle here. And this one's pretty pleasant, I think, to watch the ink slosh around the barrel, because not only do you see the ink very well through the barrel of this pen, you could also see the shimmer mixing it up in there as well. So you could kind of spin it around and then just watch the shimmer whirl around inside of the pen as well. Now, Bucks Fizz is a very light color, orangey with a little lean towards like peach. It does have an ample amount of shimmer, and it's a little bit, I feel, on the drier side. So I would definitely aim to use this in a very broad-nibbed, high-flow type of pen, and that it also has the shimmer aspect of it, which the shimmer comes across as kind of an icy, silvery type of shimmer as well. I'm guessing that Bucks Fizz refers to some sort of drink that is available during the holidays possibly, but not something that I'm necessarily aware of. But you guys could let me know in the comments, educate me on what Bucks Fizz may be, but I'm not familiar with it. It's interesting, although I would probably say personally not one of my favorites in here. And at day 7, we have Sweet Dreams, which is a scented ink. Now, with any of these scented inks from Diamine, or pretty much any scented ink, is that you're going to notice the effect of the scent the most when you smell it straight from the bottle. And as I opened it, now I'm not treated to that really nice hit of that smell, which for Sweet Dreams, appropriately, kind of smells to me like cherry jello, which is pretty cool. I like the smell. It's very fruity and appealing, like pretty soft, and I think appropriate for the color that you're looking at here as well. And also too is that if you uncap your pen for the first time in a while, you tend to notice a smell there as well. So Sweet Dreams is a pretty bright pink. It does have some good shading on it, so as an ink by itself, without the scented quality, has a certain vibrancy and fun quality about it. It does have the scented, but this is just kind of as it's somewhat still wet. It tends to basically fade out. So I wouldn't expect writing this and then coming back to it tomorrow and being able to smell that cherry jello type smell. So really it's more about when you're filling your pen or uncapping your pen, especially if you have a large amount of ink in that particular pen, you'll end up smelling it more. But overall, it's pretty nice, it's fun, and I think especially as you're unboxing these day after day and you're seeing the shimmer after shimmer after shimmer, something like this, a change of pace, is pretty fun. At day 8 we have Jacaranda, which is a standard ink. Now Jacaranda, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly or what exactly Jacaranda is. Should have probably done a little Google search before recording this, but that's kind of the nature of, hey, I'm just unboxing these and checking them out. So if you do know what that is, please let us know in the comments. Would love to get some details about that. As for the ink itself, it's a very pleasant looking purple, say like a light sort of lavender type of color. Jacaranda seems to be a nice, little bit less than middle saturated, so slightly on the undersaturated side, but carries with it a dramatic sense for shading, which is nice because then it pulls apart a little bit of the color. It doesn't look like just a flat lavender. It's got some hints of some rose that also skew towards the deep blue end as well. So it's a really nice, pleasant, but fairly complex color. Very pleasing on the eye, I think. Despite not knowing what a Jacaranda is, I'm pretty sold that this is a fun color to include in this calendar. At day 9 we have Moonbeam, which is a chameleon color. Now with Diamine Moonbeam, this is what I would say is a gray that has some degree of, let's say, greens, I think, through it. It definitely has quite a bit of shimmer. Seems to be some blue, silver shimmer. Actually, perhaps some, maybe it looks like some like light purple shimmer as well. So that's why you have the chameleon, has a few different colors of shimmer throughout there too. I did notice that this is like one of the drier types of inks that is having a little bit of trouble getting out of this Platinum Preppy. So that is definitely something you should note, that if you're using Moonbeam, definitely use it in a high flow, very wet writing fountain pen. Something that has got like a broad or a stub nib on it should probably do the best with this type of ink, but with this medium point, it's a little bit on the drier side for my liking. At day 10, we have Velvet Emerald, which is a standard ink. Diamine Velvet Emerald, I think it's going to be one of everybody's favorite colors of the 2023 Inkvent calendar. It hits on a lot of, I think, what people love about fountain pen inks, which is its like saturated depth of color, the hue, the strength of the hue, and the fact that it's not your conventional type of color. So it's not a blue, it's not a green, it's kind of a tealish, but it has a deep emerald color that reminds me also too, as they say emerald on it, so I can't help but feel a comparison to Emerald of Chivor here, but Emerald of Chivor is definitely a lot more saturated, has the sheen, has the shimmer. So this is kind of like Emerald of Chivor if it was a little bit lighter and did not have any shimmer. So it does carry with it that deep, dramatic hue and just a very bright, vibrant color, which is gorgeous. I mean, it's definitely something that reminds me of the wrapping paper, Christmas trees, just the bright green of the winter that you come to appreciate of its evergreen sort of quality. At 11, we have Glacier, which is a star bright color. I'm not very sure what star bright is. Best I could probably describe it, and you'll see it in the sample here, is that it's just probably a really over-the-top shimmer color. It's very brightly shimmered. So let's see what this is all about. You can see in the pen here, got massive buildup of the silver shimmer. That's especially in the feed there. I would be surprised if this does not have any issues with the ink flow, but yeah, we'll see. Now, while it does feel a bit drier, it's not as dry, I think, as the Moonbeam, but this definitely does have a huge amount of shimmer on it. Very icy, glistening type of shimmer that's over a base of what I would say is kind of an undersaturated pale blue, so it's a pastel type blue color. It's got good shading to it as well, but what you're here for is that over-the-top shimmer, which is just apparent, I think, in every stroke. Even with a medium point Platinum Preppy, you could see every line has got an ample amount of shimmer, and that this pen has got an ample amount of shimmer going through it as well. So that's maybe what they refer to as star bright, is that it just has an overwhelming amount of shimmer in it. So just probably use this with a little bit of caution in your pens, just knowing that you may have to strip it down to clean it completely out while having this ink in your pen. Okay. For number 12, we have Bah Humbug, which is a chameleon ink. I really like Bah Humbug. I like it on a couple of levels because this is a very highly saturated burgundy red slash kind of a little bit leans towards brown. It has a richness to it, and it also has shimmer, but I feel, especially as you see with the writing sample, that the shimmer doesn't get in the way of the writing experience like with the drier inks. This, I feel, flows very nicely and has beautiful saturation, and then once it dries, you could really get that coppery shimmer, and it's kind of like a coppery reddish sort of shimmer that goes throughout the whole entire thing. And I love it for the theme, because here you have a whole collection of inks that are supposed to be in celebration of the holiday season, of Christmas, of winter, and then you have something that is Bah Humbug, is basically an expression that says, oh, like, I don't really care. So it's kind of like a very flippant phrase that you would throw if you know, to cut counter to the celebration that's going on. But it in a way, it kind of then still contributes to the lore of you know, seasons and things like that. It's part of everything. So the fact that they made an ink that has Bah Humbug on it, I think it's just funny, and I think that the ink's darkness also contributes to it as well. So I feel like this is one of my favorites of the entire set. For the name and also for the color. At number 13, we have Weeping Willow, which is a standard ink. Now, Diamine Weeping Willow, I'm not sure what the Weeping Willow part is about. I know it's a tree, and it does have a very tree-like coloring to it, but I'm not sure of how it fits in with the rest of the themed inks that are here. But as an ink, it is very lightly saturated. It's a little bit on the drier side, but it has a really interesting chroma shade to it. And it also kind of separates into color, where you would see darker areas of green beset with areas of kind of like a brownish, reddish kind of color. So it does separate really nicely, especially in the bigger swatchy areas. So go with something that, like I mentioned for the drier inks, something that has like higher flow, broader nib, and you would see how this ink really shines well in those types of pens. So a really interesting undersaturated multi-chromatic type of ink that then kind of complements all the rest of the super saturated shimmery inks that are in this set. Oopsie. At number 14, we have Rainbow's End, which is a chameleon ink. Now, Rainbow's End looks to have some copper and I think some violet shimmer in it as well. Now, Rainbow's End is a beautiful color. Coppery shimmer, a violet shimmer, and it's a very bold violet ink. A little bit of some shading, I think, with it as well, but really what you're here for is that nice flow that comes with the more saturated purple ink and the beautiful contrasting shimmer in that accentuates that purple by just jumping out at you and just giving you that little bit of extra glistening metallic appeal in every stroke that you write. So you could see it even with this Platinum Preppy. You could see pretty nicely through the lettering that the shimmer comes through. I'm not sure Rainbow's End what the deal is with the theme. I don't understand where the connection is with, let's say, the rest of the colors, but it's still pretty cool. I like it. At day number 15, we have Walnut, which is a standard ink. Now, Diamine Walnut is a really rich, decadent, chocolatey brown. It doesn't have a very deep saturated brown, but it definitely gives that feeling of, you know, you're toasting the nuts on the fire, like chestnuts on the roasting fire. Although this is not chestnuts, it's walnuts, but it definitely provides, I think, that needed rich brown color throughout this whole set of colors. And it's got some pretty nice accents of shading on it as well, but it's not too dark, so you can notice the variations in every letter stroke that you have with this really cool looking brown ink. At day 16, we have Merry and Bright, which is a shimmer ink. You can see that shimmer right there. Now this color, I could imagine a lot of people are going to be writing out their yearly cards with because it definitely captures that brightness, the opulence of the holidays. It is a very bright, vibrant green, has got some little bit of shading, but then has the beautiful gold shimmer as well with it. And of course it's called Merry and Bright too, so what else are you going to write your notes with during, you know, this season other than something that will give off this merry and bright, which is perfectly named, I think, for what this ink is, which is merry and bright. It's got that beautiful gold shimmer in it, and it's got a little bit of some shading that goes throughout as well, and it flows very nicely. So definitely an ink that I think people will be using to write their notes, their yearly cards, and everything with, because this definitely hits on the seasonal theme of this set. At day 17, we have Lavender Frost, which is another shimmer ink. It's very frothy. Okay. Now, Lavender Frost, as opposed to some of the other lighter shimmer colors that we've seen, I think has some pretty good flow for a lightly saturated shimmer ink. It has some interesting dynamics to this color here because it is a pale purple, but then it kind of has some gray qualities about it. And then of course you have the silver shimmer that runs throughout, which is pretty noticeable even in the smaller writing areas of it. And definitely within the swatch itself, the frost aspect of it, it definitely reminds me of some really cold, blustery winter mornings, especially in the early hours before daybreak, and just the colors are all muted, and it just feels very cold. So that's what this ink feels. It just feels very like icy cold. And speaking of cold, we have at day 18, Blizzard, which is another shimmer ink. Diamine Blizzard, this is one cold ink. It's got a pale, light, sort of aqua-ish blue, very pastel looking in blue, and muted, so it's not too bright, but has that kick of the icy blue shimmer, which you'll see at the bottom of the bottle there. So very, I'd say, quite appropriate for the theme of the box here for winter. Although I feel like they've done a blizzard before in one of the ink vents, or possibly in one of the Diamine Shimmer Tasta inks. I feel that they've named a color blizzard already, but sometimes with so many ink colors that these things just start blending in together anyway. Although I would say for this particular color, blizzard I feel fits it very appropriately, especially with the shimmer. At day 19, we have the second of the two scented inks in Cinnabun. Not to be confused with Cinnabon. Let's just make that clear. It's Cinnabun. Now, Cinnabun, I would say, if I was to have expectations of what it would smell like, I would want that strong scent of sweet cinnamon. However, this Cinnabun ink has more of a smell like you would expect out of a stick of gum that has cinnamon flavor, something like the Dentine Fire type of ink, or not ink, gum, or smelling the Fireball whiskey, that kind of cinnamon sort of smell. So definitely doesn't have the sweetness that I was expecting, which is a little bit of a letdown, personally, I would say, but for some, maybe quite appealing if you like that kind of smell. But that's just to know what you're expecting. It's not going to be sweet cinnamon bun smell. It's going to be more like, fireball smell. And Cinnabun has the look of a cinnamon bun, does it not? It has a brown that with tones of, let's say, gold. It's a little bit lighter of a brown that looks a lot like, I think, almost like leather would kind of look like, especially a lighter saddle type of leather. It just has a very, very pleasing sort of look that does remind you of a lot of baked goods and pastries and breads and things. So very sweet brown type of ink, but like I said, just kind of misses the mark in terms of what I hoped it was going to smell like. But it still does have that smell, that cinnamon gum type of smell, even when you put it on paper like this. But like I said, with the other ink, probably will dissipate over time. I wouldn't expect coming back to this tomorrow and being able to smell it like this. Now, coming down to the end, we have the chameleon ink called Astral. So Astral has got to be the deepest, darkest ink of the Diamine 2023 Inkvent Calendar. And it also means that it has the most noticeable shimmer on here, which as a chameleon shimmer has a couple of different colors kind of providing iridescence. I think I kind of see like a greenish, a bluish tint in here, and I also think I see a little bit of some sheen as well because of its super saturation. This color, as you can see on the inside of this pen, just wants to cling to all the walls of the pen. So you can't even really see the shimmer inside of the barrel of the pen until you get it on the paper here. But when you do get it on the paper, it has a very bright iridescent quality about it. So it's almost as if you're staring out into the stars and the deep black sky, and you just see the the arrangement of stars out there just twinkling above in the heavens, and that's what kind of Astral's all about. So at day 21, we have Tranquility, which is a chameleon ink. Diamine Tranquility is a very beautiful, bright purple ink. A little bit of pink in there as well. Has got the shimmer to go with it. Shimmer qualities, I would say, it's got a little bit of a light blue. Yeah, it kind of looks like light blue and gold that are throughout the shimmer. It is not exactly what I would say a tranquil ink. It just seems to have a lot of energy and enthusiasm, exuberance about it. It has a bit of some shading. You could kind of see in the letter forms in the printed area here. It's got some decent amount of shading as well. Beautiful ink, very vibrant and exciting to look at. It's another great shimmer ink. So many shimmer inks in this year's set. Definitely, I think a lot more than all the other calendars had included. At day 22, we have Tinsel, which is a shimmer ink. And Tinsel has a lot of shimmer. You could see it throughout the feed and the barrel here. Looks to be an orangey type of shimmer. It's like a coppery color shimmer. And I felt that with Diamine Tinsel, this color, I think, could have used a little less shimmer because I do really like the bright red, but I felt like the overwhelming amount of shimmer has kind of detracted from its ability to flow nicely on the page, which means that it's quite a bit on the drier side, and I mean, it still has an ample amount of gilded shimmer that's on here. It does look very vibrant and glistening, but at the same time, in terms of practicality with writing, it doesn't really help its case to be able to write with it fluidly, which I think, at least in my opinion, makes it more of an ink that's suited for, let's say, dip pens. Now, after a string of several shimmer and chameleon inks, I'm glad to go back to a regular standard ink in Fireside Snug. Now, out of all of the standard inks, I think this is probably my personal favorite. It is a bright, bold red and orange color that has good shading and has some undertones of gold in it as well. So similar to one of my favorite all-time inks, Colorverse Martian, it kind of has that similar vibe where it's kind of in that middle of being orange and red, but has hues, I think, in both directions that kind of pull it and make it just a beautiful ink with lots of depth to it. And that fact that you call it Fireside Snug really recalls the idea of just sitting beside a crackling fire and being able to snuggle up and feel all warm even despite the fact that it's cold outside. And I love myself a good fire. Just face it, I just love watching a fire burn. During opening Christmas presents, I'll put on the TV station that has the Yule log. It just brings back all of those memories and thinking of staying by the fire. So probably one of my favorites, like I said, in the standard set of inks in this collection. And we have the penultimate color in this year's Diamine Inkvent Calendar, which is Sugar Snap, and it's a shimmer ink. Diamine Sugar Snap is olive green that has got some good shading to it. It has some undertones of yellow, as you would expect an olive green would. And as far as the shimmer is concerned, I think it's kind of got like a little bit of an icy silver type of shimmer that goes along well with this. It's got that feeling of the sugary sweetness about the color, and this shimmer just adds a little bit of extra something to this ink. And now let's get to the last and final bottle of ink, which in this set, everything else, all 24 days leading up to, is 12 milliliters, but in the middle we have the 30 milliliter bottle, which is called Raise a Glass. Now, they don't say on the label what exactly to expect with this color, although I saw that there appears to be some shimmer at the bottom of this. That's why I'm giving it a good old shake, is because knowing how the shimmer looks like in the rest of the bottles, I would expect that there's going to be some shimmer in here. You want to make sure that it's nice and well distributed, because this is a bit of a taller bottle. This is usually what your Diamine 30 ml ink bottles would come with. It's a plastic bottle, but it's taller. So when you have a shimmer ink, all the shimmer is going to rest at the bottom. You want to make sure that it's going to be accessible at the top, so you give it a good shake. Diamine Raise a Glass is a very, very dark purple aubergine type color. It seems that we've got a little bit of some black sheen as well, and of course the shimmer, of which I think is probably like a silver. I want to say maybe it's like a silver, or it's got a little bit of some greenish tint to that shimmer as well. Like I said, it's a little bit more difficult to tell in the studio lighting, but you can really see this if you put some direct light on it, or go out in the daytime and put out your page into some sunlight, and you'd be able to see exactly what color is going on there. But I think it's like a green, a little bit of some silver shimmer that's in there, so maybe it's a chameleon type color. But thematically speaking, raising a glass, you're raising a glass in a celebration as a toast to celebrating another year done, another holiday spent with family. So I feel like it's very appropriate to end this journey with an ink called Raise a Glass. It's a toast to good health and good writing, and to happy inking. That concludes all of the various swatches in the Diamine Inkvent Calendar. So pen pals, which color is your favorite, or at least looks to be the most promising to be your new favorite? Let us know in the comments and you'll be entered for a chance to win this very Inkvent Calendar I open here, plus all 25 Platinum Preppy pens that were eyedroppered and then inked with all the various colors and labeled so you know which color that they are on the barrel. And then plus all of those pens will be included inside of a Girologio 24 pen case, and then of course that 25th pen will slide it in a separate pen case for you as well. But that all could be yours if you are selected as the lucky winner of our giveaway. We will have a drawing of which we'll pick a random comment within 7 days of posting this video, and we'll announce it on YouTube, so we'll let you know if you've won. We'll also contact you. We'll just add a little comment reply next to your comment. So just keep a lookout and see if you were picked as the winner of this giveaway. If you enjoyed this early unboxing and review, please put us on your nice list. Give us a like and subscribe for more merry pen and ink fun. Thank you for watching and stay inky, my friends. Take care.